Yes.
You know I was against this to begin with, and at that price?
If our visitors would quit talking and pay attention to the board. Only kidding.
Gloria.
Only kidding.
I didn't even hear you anyway.
I know. Yeah, they're too busy talking. I now call to order the December 16th, 2021 regular Board of Aldermen meeting. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Alderman Ross.
Here.
Alderman Morose.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen. Alderman Becker.
Here.
Alderman Rucker.
Here.
Mayor Alvery.
Here. All right, we do have a quorum. Our first item of business always is mayor's comments. And I do have a few things that I'd like to share this evening. First, I'd like to just take a minute to personally thank each city employee for the great work they did throughout 2021, providing outstanding services for our citizens, businesses, and visitors. And I also want to express my appreciation to the board, not just for the time that you all gave in your efforts performing your alderman tasks, but for your commitment to make Osage Beach the wonderful place that it is, both for work and to live. And finally, I'd like to wish our community and the lake area much joy and peace this Christmas season, a prosperous new year, and special memories for those observing similar traditions this time of year. And I'd also like to say and truly believe that I look forward to a 2022 being another dynamic year for the city of Osage Beach. So we move on now to citizens' communications. This is time set aside on the agenda for citizens and visitors to address the board and mayor on any topic that is not a public hearing, and there are no public hearings on tonight's agenda. For those here in person, speakers will be restricted to 3 minutes unless otherwise permitted. Minutes may not be donated or transferred from one speaker to another. Visitors attending via online will be in listen-only mode. Any questions or comments for the mayor and board may be sent to the city clerk at tberreth@osagebeach.org no later than 10 a.m. on the board meeting dates, which are the first and third Thursdays of each month. Submitted questions and comments may be read during the citizens communications section of the agenda. The Board of Aldermen will not take action on any item not listed on the agenda, nor will it respond to questions, although staff may be directed to respond at a later time. The Mayor and Board of Aldermen welcome and value input from the public. Is there anyone here in person who would like to address the board? Gloria, please come forward.
Merry Christmas, Ron.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine. I'm Gloria O'Keefe, and I just have a question that has been brought up to me because they know I try to attend most of the meetings. Lake Ozark has one garbage refuge pickup in the city or in the area. They asked me if we, being Osage Beach, would consider something like that. Long ago, I can't remember when, this was brought up. And it was, voted down, kiboshed or whatever. And I just wanted to bring it up again. That's it.
Okay.
Thank
Gloria, why don't I have the city administrator just give you a call and visit with you a little bit about that. You're right. It's been probably the last couple of years that issue was addressed, and there was a decision that was made on that, and she can, review that with you.
Yeah. Okay. I can get back to some of the people.
Great. That's
Thank
perfect.
you.
Thank you. And appreciate all the service that you give to our community over and over again. Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak this evening? If not, we'll move on to our first item of business, which is the approval of the consent agenda. If the board desires, the consent agenda may be approved by a single motion. Tonight's agenda consists of the minutes of the December 2nd, 2021 Board of Aldermen meeting minutes and the December 16th, 2021 bills list. Are there any questions, comments, or proposed revisions? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Alderman Morose, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Rucker. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda is approved. We move on now to unfinished business. Our first item of unfinished business, request a second reading by title only of ordinance number 2178, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, adopting an annual budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2022 and ending December 31st, 2022, and appropriating funds pursuant thereto. The first reading for unfinished items was approved at the December 2nd regular meeting. Are there any comments from the city administrator?
No additional comments. I can answer any further questions you have from the last meeting.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve second reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Rucker and second Alderman Becker. Roll call, please.
Alderman Osteen?
Yes.
Alderman Becker?
Yes.
Alderman Morose?
Yes.
Alderman Rucker?
Yes.
Alderman Ross?
Yes.
All right, second reading passes. Our final unfinished item, request a second reading by title only of ordinance 2179, an ordinance appointing to Board of Directors of the Osage Beach Commons Community Improvement District, John Oliver, Mayor, as a citizen representative, and Gina Woods, City Administrator, as a city representatives. Any comments from City Attorney?
No, Mayor, same comments as last time. Haven't received no comment or other comments about this ordinance from anybody else, so it remains for the board's approval.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the board? If not, is there a motion to approve second reading?
So move.
Alderman Morose, second Alderman Ross. Roll call, please.
Alderman Becker?
Yes.
Alderman Morose?
Yes.
Alderman Rucker?
Yes.
Alderman Ross?
Yes.
Alderman Osteen?
Yes.
All right, second reading passes. Our first item of new business requests both a first and second reading of Bill Number 2180, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to sign a contract with Stockman Construction for 5481 Osage Beach Parkway Driveway Improvement Project for an amount not to exceed $34,320. Assistant City Administrator, please.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the board. If you remember, the board had directed staff to move forward with the one driveway remaining on this project at 5481 Osage Beach Parkway back in October. In November, we put this out to bid informally. It's under the 25,000 purchasing rule, so we were just going to do this informally. We had multiple contractors pick up bid packets, but unfortunately, we only had the one that actually turned in a bid. The bid that came in was from Stockman Construction, who we do have a good working relationship with. Unfortunately, the bid was pretty much right around double what the engineer's estimate came in at. So, you know, it's you know, whatever the board's pleasure is here. If the board decides to move forward with this project, just understand that at this late in the year, it's unlikely that we would get this started until January. My recommendation would be that the board reject all bids, and in the February, March timeframe, we go ahead and we give this another shot and see if we can get a more competitive bid process, bid it out formally, see if we can get a better, more competitive bid process, and kind of take it from there. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have, sir.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Yes, Alderman Morose.
Mayor, I am totally against paying almost double of what we were initially looking at, and the fact that we only have one bid submitted, and I don't see any emergency to try to improve this entrance, even though I know it was on the list to do it. But I'm not in favor of paying this $30,000 to do this when we can wait and see if we can get some other bids later on.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Alderman Rucker.
I agree and was prepared to not support this tonight with the idea that I think a good idea would be, and check with our engineers, but put this out to bid in conjunction with our Deerbergs and our other, I call it Central Bank, but down there, those two other sidewalk projects. This is a similar type project. One of the things we all know that there's a cost in setup. This is I just believe it would work good with those two, because we talked about those two being two projects that they would bid out together, because I know if you can do that, that would be my suggestion, but I'm definitely not in favor of it. I think that the price like that is doubling more than what the engineer's estimate, but that's not, I don't have to bid it out that way, but that would be my suggestion.
Okay. Any other comments? Yes, Alderman Ross.
Just real quick, I don't support spending this kind of money either, and I did talk with Dave Van Leer today, and we're talking about possibly some different approaches of resolving it, either grinding or cutting the concrete. I don't know that this is, I don't know that this is that complicated when it all comes down to it, and we even have to completely redo them. So there may just have to rethink this whole project about how there's maybe a better way to do this in a much more effective manner.
Okay. Alderman Osteen.
I think the board's aware of my stance on this project, period. I do not believe we will get much better bids because it is such a singular scope of work. I think that is one of the reasons that one bid that did come in is so high, because as we all know down here, one of the biggest challenges we have is finding labor to do simple jobs for remodeling, bathroom repair work, kitchen repair work, et cetera, because people aren't looking for those singular type jobs. So I'm curious down the line to get other bids, but I do not believe in scope they're going to be much better than what we're seeing right now. That's all.
Any other comments?
Sure, I'll go since everybody else did. Yeah, I'm totally against it. Not for doubling what we were told.
Okay.
May I say
Yes.
something? The request on the table, and I just want to clarify, just to piggyback on what Mike Welty was saying, the request on here is not to reject bids, it's to approve this contract. So Ed can work on the procedure there, but if there's no motion, no activity, then it dies. So I just want to correct what I meant. This is not a request to reject, because this is a request to award, so either award or don't award. Okay, I just want to clarify.
If Gina and I are reading the board's comments correctly, the most effective way to kill this is when the mayor asks if there's a motion to adopt. If no motion to adopt is made, then this will fail for a lack of a motion, and we'll be done with the item, and it will be rejected.
But that doesn't mean that this, if the board would like, and this would be based on some comments that I think I've heard from you all, that we would look at some alternative methods to address this project.
Absolutely.
Is that correct? And I just want to be sure that, staff, hears that part of it. Yes.
Would we have to make a motion to basically go back to putting this back on the mic, to wait until the spring months or later?
No, I think what we'll just simply do is, as city attorney has recommended, we'll go ahead and I'll ask for a motion, and because we always like to, under Robert's rules, have a positive, motion, and then the decision made on the positive motion. Okay, and so if you all, do not make a motion, then it dies for lack of a motion, and I think that staff has already heard your comments and will proceed accordingly.
I didn't know if that required an actual motion.
No, it does not.
Okay.
It does not.
You're good.
Okay. Anything else before we move for a motion? All right. Is there a motion to approve first reading? I hear none, so the motion dies for lack of. Bill dies. Excuse me. The bill dies. The bill dies. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Our next item requests both the first and second reading of Bill Number 2181, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending Chapter 125, Human Resource Services Personnel, Rules and Regulations, and the policies associated with Chapter 125, Section 125.050, Pay and Compensation. Human Resource Generalist, please.
Yes, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. The first, I'm bringing several items to you this morning, or this afternoon, and the first one covers Section 125.050. It's pay and compensation. And there's 4 recommendations to this request. The first one is basically just correcting what has inadvertently been overlooked in the past on the periodic position review and maintenance of job descriptions. We are currently, staff currently does that. Positions are reviewed once every 5 years unless department managers have requested it to be, the position to be looked at earlier in the process. The ordinance still says 8, which had been changed a few years ago. So that's just one little cleanup. The section 125.050G1 is overtime in the comp time, flex time policy. And in this section here of Chapter 125, we're just changing the date to reflect the new effective date of January 1, 2022. And another agenda item goes into the further details of that. Tuition reimbursement is also a policy we're asking for a change, but this agenda item is just changing the date of the policy also for when to be effective January 1, 1st, 2022. And then the call-out pay on section 125.050G8 is just a request to the name change terminology. And then we're going further on and asking to change pager pay to be changed to standby pay. And we are also recommending that we, instead of paying the current 8 hours at regular time, we are going to request that we change that standby payout to be 7 hours on a weekly time frame at overtime rate. This provides a little additional incentive for the employees, as well as provides a lot more flexibility with the employees that are on call when we're providing just 1 hour per day, and then employees can actually trade out if they have something to do and somebody can fill in for them. It provides us with a lot more accountability, and it has a little bit more freedom. This suggestion and recommendation is coming on behalf of several employees that have brought it to my attention to see if we can make it a little bit more easier. On-call does reflect some of the police department, but it really has a huge impact on our public works sewer department. So staff is asking for that. So that is the major part of this. If you want to wait and approve this later, if I go into more details on the other agenda items, or we can go ahead and approve this and go ahead to the details on the tuition reimbursement and the overtime policy. It's up to you guys.
We'll address each one of them individually.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments? If none, is there a motion to approve first reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second? Alderman Becker, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? First reading passes. Second reading by title only of ordinance number 2181, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending Chapter 125, Human Resource Systems Personnel, Rules and Regulations. Are there any additional questions? With none, is there a motion to approve second reading?
So moved.
Alderman Morose and Alderman Osteen is a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Alderman Becker.
Yes.
Alderman Morose.
Yes.
All right, second reading does pass. Our next item is requesting a first and second reading of Bill Number 2182, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending Chapter 125, Human Resource System, Personnel, Rules and Regulations, and the policies associated with Chapter 125, Section 125.050.G.2, overtime, compensation, time, and flex time. Human Resource Generalist, please.
Yes, Mayor and members of the board. The overtime, comp time, flex time policy is what we're recommending changes for with this agenda item. The first item that we're asking to be changed is the definition of hours worked. And the current definition of hours worked does not include personal time, holiday time, vacation time, or comp time. My recommendation is to remove holiday time and have that be as defined as part of hours worked. The reason that I'm asking that is that when this change was made back, I believe, in 2017, it was not, we didn't realize that it does have a negative impact on the employees that are working because they don't have a choice when they're working overtime in a week that there is a holiday. They do have a choice when they can select vacation or their comp time or personal leave, but with holiday pay. So when an individual, and I will go back to our holidays when we had Thanksgiving holidays off. So an employee in our sewer department worked over about almost close to 105 hours overtime that week, or worked 105 hours. But because of the holidays, he only ended up with 4 hours pay overtime. The rest was paid out at regular rate. So because 16 hours that week was considered, not considered as hours worked because they were holiday. So I'm just asking that we consider to make this adjustment. The additional change that we're asking is to increase our comp time balance accrual limit from 80 hours to 120. Again, this is something that through meeting with employees and everything, this has been a request coming from the employees. Employees like to have, be able to have some comp time. They do take it off and enjoy some paid time leave, especially if you're an employee that's usually within your first 3 years. It gives you a little bit more paid time off because it takes you a little while to accrue your time. And we do allow, the city administrator has allowed in the past, because of staff shortages, a couple of departments have been able to move up to the 120 hours just because of the staffing shortages. This is in lieu that they get, instead of getting paid out their overtime, they get hours at time and a half in a comp time balance. So if they work 4 hours overtime, they would earn 6 hours comp time. Your consideration is appreciated.
All right, thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Yes, Alderman Osteen.
The changes with the holiday pay, that's pretty standard with most businesses, correct? With the hospitals, with the schools, as far as holiday pay counting towards hours worked that week, not excluded. So we're just trying to get in line with other entities, correct?
Yes, yeah, I mean, I've asked a couple of them, and some of them don't count them as hours worked, and some do count them as hours worked. And when I looked back to some of our payroll records, it did have a negative impact on especially our Public Works Department.
Okay, that's all.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve first reading?
So move.
Alderman Morose, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Becker, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? First reading passes. Second reading by title only of ordinance number 2182, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending Chapter 125, Human Resource System, Personnel, Rules and Regulations, Overtime, Comp Time, Flex Time. Are there any additional questions? With none, is there a motion to approve second reading?
Motion
Alderman
approved.
Ross, second Alderman Osteen. Roll call, please.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Alderman Becker.
Yes.
Alderman Morose.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
All right, second reading passes. Our next item, request a first and second reading of Bill number 2183, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending Chapter 125, Human Resource Systems, Personnel Rules and Regulations, and the policies associated with Chapter 125, Section 125.050.G.3, tuition reimbursement. Human Resource Generalist, please.
Yes, Mayor and members of the board. The tuition reimbursement policy recommendations brought to you are just changes to reflect our current practice. Back in 2021, there was several different things that we've identified, staff has identified to help with recruitment for law enforcement personnel, and including academy reimbursement was one of those. So this is basically just taking our tuition, the current tuition reimbursement policy that we did have for college, and adding the law enforcement academy to that. So if there's any questions, just let me know.
All right, thank you. Are there questions or comments? Yes, Alderman Rucker.
Whose responsibility is it to make sure that we get our money?
That's mine.
Okay, is in your vacation of that week when the employee leaves, then where does that fall?
I'm sorry, what?
So you're on vacation when the employee all of a sudden turns their termination papers in or fired or whatever, then where does it fall next?
So I would be processing all that paperwork, but then I have a backup, as well as will work with the city treasurer, Carrie Bell.
Okay, my concern is the fact that I wanted to change one of the wordings in this in here, and I talked with the city administrator, and it was my understanding that the reason that we're using the word may rather than shall is because it's the way it's written somewhere else.
It's just, it's basically what we add, the verbiage that I added for the Law Enforcement Academy is as consistent with the tuition reimbursement. And if I believe she talked to me about that, and what you were talking about is.
Item number C under 2.
Yes, and basically it says that has not satisfied his or her time commitment to city shall be repaid by the employee prorated monthly and may be deducted from the employee's last paycheck. Some employees have opted just to write the city a check where it doesn't have to, so we didn't deduct anything. Some employees we've allowed to make some monthly payments back. So, and then some have elected to have me take it out of their last paycheck.
So there's some that we don't get our money when they're gone right up front.
Right.
Because this is a larger amount of money that potentially we could have hanging out there.
Yes, and in the 20 years that I've been with the city and we've had this program, there's only been one employee that has left and that did not reimburse the city completely. They did partially, but that amount at that time was determined it was not enough to pursue it in small claims court. Everybody else has fulfilled their commitment.
I support the program, just want to be cautious on the backside of it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Alderman Ross?
Along the same lines, although maybe a completely different flavor, I'm not convinced that we should even have a payback process other than once the employee they need to be employed at the time they complete the courses. And I asked Cindy to try to explain to me how that works, and it became a confusing conversation. Maybe that's all on me. But at the end of the day, I'm not convinced. I support everything here, but I would just like to ask, and although I'm not sure this is the right time, but at the end of the day, that we relook at that requirement of payback if they don't stay for 5 years. I just don't think that's the right flavor, of that. We should be happy people are trying to improve themselves. We will get benefits as an organization as they complete those or go to school. And the fact that they don't stay a certain period of time, I think possibly inhibits at least whether or not it's the participation rate. And I just don't think it has the right connotation and flavor of what we're trying to accomplish with our employees.
Interesting.
I support payback. I could reconsider the amount of time that we would allow it to be, but I support the payback. I've been involved on the other side of it with the program very similar to this, and just feel that there needs to be something. You're giving an awful lot to them, and there just needs to be something, and you're just asking them to work, and they're not receiving any less pay or anything. So that's my feeling.
There's definitely two sides of this issue. And Alderman Becker?
Cindy, if someone takes one course that's 3 credit hours, how long do they need to stay employed after that?
9 months.
Okay, thank you.
Did you say, Cindy?
9 months.
9 months.
Yeah. And during that 9 months, let's say, for instance, they were here for 8 months, and so then they decided to leave, they wouldn't have to pay back everything because it prorates out. So, yeah. Okay, Alderman Ross?
Well, I would just say, along with what Alderman Osteen talked about other organizations, although I was only responsible for part of one organization, there was never any time commitment after. I'm not convinced that this lines up with, of course, it might be local businesses in this area might be different, but I've just never heard of these kinds of requirements. I mean, I think is it 5 years? Law enforcement tuition reimbursement obligates employee to remain employed by the city for 5 years. I don't know. And to your point, Kevin, on that particular thing, an entire academy tuition, I don't know whether or not that should be considered differently than college. Maybe there is a shorter time frame that could be more comfortable. But just general college courses, I just don't see why people have to stay, other than through their employment has to be maintained until they're reimbursed. Other than that, I don't see why there's any requirement myself.
Staff can certainly look into it. I will say that it is more of a common practice than not, even in private or government, that there's some kind of commitment on the employee that we get something out. Can the times be revisited? Sure. But to invest in somebody, I mean, I'm going to go on the high end of the side, and Ed, I might use your example. You invest in somebody's master's degree, and yes, it's rolling because you're working on, let's say you work on your master's degree for a year. It's a rolling, so that first class you finish is 9 months. And so by the time you'd get done with that degree, you're probably well within majority of that time commitment, but the city also would like to get something back for investing in that. So can we look at different times? Maybe the trends are different, absolutely. But to answer your question, it is more of a common denominator than not of some kind of commitment on both sides. We will invest in you and we want to invest in you. We don't expect you to stay a lifetime, but yeah, staff can certainly look into that. I would hate that I mean, we could do that before we make these changes, but these changes right now just match what is currently in practice. So over the next several months, we could bring you back some more research.
My
Get
intention,
comfortable.
right,
Okay.
my intention of bringing this up was only to set the stage
Okay.
for something in the future, not to stop anything tonight.
Okay.
All right, any other questions or comments?
I do have one comment.
Yes, Alderman Osteen.
Since we're throwing out timeframes, 3 years, 5 years, et cetera, once again, remind me, what is the average tenure of our employee within the city?
7.
7 years? Okay. So kind of putting that in perspective because we're talking timeframes, 5 years, 3 years, 0 years, kind of.
We don't tackle a lot, and I know Cindy said out of the last 20 years, we've had 1, maybe 2 instances of trying to recoup, but that might have been only 1 or 2 of the total. 99%, and I am throwing that out as a guess, meet their commitments. We don't have people leaving, because of that before then.
All right, any other comments? Yes, Alderman Rucker?
No. I don't
Okay.
comment.
Anyone else?
I'm going to move this forward.
Okay. And I have to apologize. My computer has shifted on me, and I'm trying to get back to where it needs to be. Were we at a first reading or second reading? First reading. That's what I thought. Okay, that's fine. All right, is there a motion to approve first reading?
Motion to approve.
All right, do we have a motion? And Alderman Becker is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? First reading passes. Second reading by title only of ordinance number 2183, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending Chapter 125, Human Resource Systems Personnel, Rules and Regulations, Tuition Reimbursement. Are there any additional questions? If there are none, is there a motion to approve second reading?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Morose, roll call, please.
Alderman Osteen?
Yes.
Alderman Becker?
Yes.
Alderman Morose?
Yes.
Alderman Rucker?
Yes.
Alderman Ross?
Yes.
All right, second reading passes. Our next item request, both a first and second reading of Bill Number 2184, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending Chapter 125, Human Resource Systems, Personnel Rules and Regulations, Section 125.110.d, probationary period. Human Resource Generalist, please.
Yes, Mayor and members of the board. This is just a recommendation to increase the 6-month probation period merit that employees received when they successfully complete their probation period. It was originally a 3%, and we've changed it to 2%, I believe back in 2015, 2011, I'm not sure. It's been a while, but it was due to budget constraints at that time. Staff is recommending that we increase that back up to 3%. This will provide a little bit positive work environment and help with movement through the pay plan levels. If there are any questions, let me know.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve first reading?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second? Alderman Becker. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? First reading passes. Second reading by title only of ordinance number 2184, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending Chapter 125, Human Resource Systems Personnel, Rules and Regulations, probationary period. Are there any additional questions? With none, is there a motion to approve second reading? Alderman
So moved.
Morose, Alderman Ross, second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Becker?
Yes.
Alderman Morose?
Yes.
Alderman Rucker?
Yes.
Alderman Ross?
Yes.
Alderman Osteen?
Yes.
All right, second reading passes. Our next item requests both a first and second reading of Bill Number 2185, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending Chapter 125 Human Resource System Personnel Rules and Regulations, and the policies associated with Chapter 125, Section 125.120.E.9.b, holidays. Human Resource Generalist, please.
Yes, Mayor and members of the board. This section is basically the other half of the holidays. So the employees of the city enjoy 13 paid holidays throughout the year. This year, half of the employees, administration and public works, have that day off. The other half of employees are considered shift workers, and so their departments are 24/7, and so those holiday hours are banked into a leave bank. This is asking to clean up the ordinance to provide a little more consistency citywide with prior practices. So basically, it's stating that all employees will receive 8 hours holiday pay, except the ambulance personnel, 911 dispatchers, and law enforcement patrol officers will receive 12 hours, and airport employees will receive 8 hours or 10 hours, depending on the airport hours. Basically, if they're scheduled to work in the summer and they're working 10-hour days that week, then they would be banked 10 hours. If they're working in the wintertime and if their holidays we're working 8-hour days, then they would be banked 8-hour days. Law enforcement currently receives the 12 hours. However, everybody else receives 8 hours. The verbiage was compensation in proportion to the average number of hours normally scheduled in a week, and that had not been followed. So this is just something staff has been trying to clean up, and we're bringing this forward to you as a different option to clean it up and to make it more fair and equitable across all the city departments.
All right, thank you. Are there questions or comments? With none, is there a motion to approve first reading?
So moved.
Alderman Becker, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Ross. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? First reading passes. Second reading by title only of Ordinance 2185, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending Chapter 125 Human Resource System Personnel Rules and Regulations, holiday pay. Are there any additional questions or comments?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I just had a brain thought here, something that I missed earlier with reading this. Shouldn't our ambulance personnel, shouldn't there be something in there that says 12 or 24? Because don't we have some ambulance personnel that are working 24, so shouldn't they get a 24-hour for holiday pay?
Well, I just did research based on the best practices, and I just went ahead and did none of the ambulance agencies that we had contacted do the payout that way. They pay out either 8 hours or 12 hours, so I just went with the 12 hours. If the board would like that to change, that's fine. But they work 2 24-hour shifts in a week. What is our ambulance schedule at this time?
Well, I have a problem with that because all other staff is getting the holiday hours of the hours that they work. So if they're working, the police or the dispatch or ambulance, whatever it is, but the ambulance people are working 24 hours on a holiday and they're only getting 12 hours of pay. That's wrong. All the rest of the staff is getting the holiday hours for the holiday hours they worked, and the ambulance is not. I'm sorry, I should have caught this earlier. I didn't.
Good catch.
I didn't catch it earlier. So I believe that I can't support this with the second reading.
All right, any other questions or comments? Alderman Osteen?
Since we're discussing holiday pay in a 24-hour span, those shifts, do they work 12:01 a.m. until 11:59 p.m. on a holiday? So are they actually working the full 24 hours in that holiday day?
They work 7 a.m. to 7.
So there you go. So they're not officially necessarily working a 24-hour holiday day, correct? Am I making sense here? Mm-hmm. Kevin, did you understand what I'm saying?
I understand, but it don't make a difference. Their holiday is being disrupted. whether it's Christmas, New Year's, or whatever it is, their holiday is being disrupted. And I believe they should get the full 24 hours for the holiday pay.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Alderman Ross?
As I listen to this unfold, from a philosophy standpoint, I agree with what you're trying to accomplish, Kevin, but if they're working from 7 to midnight, 7 a.m. to midnight, then in my mind, they would get holiday pay for 7 a.m. to midnight. I would completely understand that.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. And I don't know, can we amend a second reading? Can we amend this and make it go that way now?
Yes.
Okay. Don't know what the rest of the board thinks, but I'm more than willing to make a motion to amend it to where it's the hours worked, because I think that's what we were trying to accomplish here, wasn't it? To give them holiday pay for the hours worked on a holiday. Is that right?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
You want a motion to amend it first, or?
I'll agree.
Yeah. Yes, let's have a motion to amend.
So you're basically saying that on a holiday, Christmas,
Okay.
say Christmas just the Christmas day, they would get 19 hours of holiday pay if they're working a 24-hour shift.
If they come in at 7 a.m., they should be working 12 plus 5, so it'd be 17, but yes.
As a
Paying them
practical
for the hours actually worked
application,
within that date is what we're
can I ask for a
alluding to.
clarification on a practical application?
Sure.
So what Cindy is attempting to do is, which is probably why the old language was a proportion of the average number of hours normally scheduled in a week, because we have, so I'm going backwards, is probably what tried to fix this at a time, because you have some departments that their FSLA labor weeks are 42, some are 36. Us that are 40, that's easy math. So if you're saying that it's the actual hours that individual employee works, so if it's 7A to 7P or whatever, what Cindy's attempting to do, and would make sense with what Kevin's doing, is just calculate it 24, and we don't have to individually recalculate every employee in case they work a strange schedule. Is Cindy, am I helping you out here? How are we gonna apply this?
Well, can I throw something in? I think also you have a day shift officer that works 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's all 12. But then you have a night shift guy that comes on at 7, and 7 to midnight, he's only going to get the 5 for the holiday.
We're saying, I'm just trying to clarify, I understand what Kevin's recommendation is. I'm not fully understanding what Richard is in practicality.
I just want to make sure that people get paid holiday pay when they work on holidays. I mean, and if we can't, and, you know, all I can say is this is always a complicated subject that I get deer in the headlights half the time we get on this damn thing, tell you the truth. But we need to somehow keep it simple so people can understand it and we can explain it. And I guess I would just say, if we can't explain it easier than right now, this kind of merry-go-round we're going around, then we might want to look at this differently. From a top-line standpoint, if you work during a holiday, whatever hours you work, you should get paid holiday hours. I mean, I think it's just that simple. You work 4, you work 8, you work 12, you work 24. If you work, you get holiday pay. Now, maybe there's some other, because of 40-hour work week stuff and overtime, but still, holiday pay is holiday pay. If you work on December 25th and you put in 10 hours, you get 10 hours. You put in 17 hours, you get 17 hours. That other thing, Chief, it's not a holiday, but I'm not sure.
Can we bring back something, and I request that we don't amend. I request you let us bring back second reading.
Well,
With an
I
amendment.
might suggest that we do this, but you bring back something on top. I mean, I think there's some good stuff here that needs to be implemented. Am I not wrong?
No, I'm just saying this particular bill just addresses the,
Right,
Well,
but there's
I
some
think what
changes
Alderman Ross is
besides.
recommending is that we go ahead and pass the second reading, and then come back with another, change to the
Sure.
ordinance.
To enhance it even more.
As, next meeting or as quickly as we can,
Right.
which would eliminate the need for your amendment to the,
Absolutely.
to the second. So if you'll withdraw that.
I'll withdraw that.
Okay, so does everybody understand what we're talking about doing? And or if there's further discussion on it, to go ahead and pass the second reading as it's being proposed, and then have Cindy take a look at this and address some of the other issues that were brought up, and bring those back to the board in an ordinance change, in a further ordinance change. Are there any questions or comments on that? All right, so if there's not, is there a motion to approve the second reading as proposed?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second? Alderman Becker. Roll call, please.
Alderman Morose.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
No.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Alderman Becker.
Yes.
All right, the second reading does pass with a vote of 4 to 1. We move on. Our next item is requesting a first and second reading of Bill Number 2186, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing a not-to-exceed amount of $325,000 for FY 2022 under the existing LOR Engineering LLC DBA Cochran Engineering Professional Services Agreement. City Administrator.
Yes, Mayor, members of the board. So we are still working under the contract with Cochran Engineering, or their official business name is LOR Engineering LLC. This is a not-to-exceed spending authority. Therefore, we can start the beginning of the year with the budgeted amount that the fiscal year 2022 does support. It's not much different from last year. I thought that would be a good comparison for you in 2021. The max for me was not to exceed for 313, and we'll probably be pretty close to that. I got one more invoice that I'll be processing with them. So this just sets us up for the city for January 1 to continue that contract under what's budgeted.
All right, thank you. Are there questions or comments? Yes, Alderman Becker.
To refresh my memory, what positions is Cochran replacing if we would hire our own employees, and what would those approximate salaries be?
Well, it's actually 4 positions. It was an entire engineering department. At one time, when fully staffed, there were 4. We had a city engineer, which at the time served both Public Works Director and City Engineer, but he was our licensed PE stamped engineer. We had a civil engineer who was not a PE, but civil engineer. We had a project manager, and we had a tech.
Engineering tech.
Yeah. Tech that also did survey, different things like that. So in reality, it was a department of 4 at one time. I will definitely get you an email, an estimate. I know it's over 325,000 at our highest peak, but yeah. So it's not just one person, it was actually 4
Because
positions.
it would be not only salary, it would be benefits associated with it and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Alderman Ross.
Along that line, I've spoke to Gene, I think we even mentioned this during strategic planning, that we need to take a good look at what we're getting some great results from Cochran. But anytime you sub something out or hire it out like that, you're usually paying 30 to 40% more than you should be able to hire it done. Now, you've got to manage it and obtain that same level of productivity. And there's no doubt, I think that our engineering department has probably been as productive and as effective as it has been in 8 or 10 years since Cochran's been involved. But I still think there's an opportunity here to completely understand what we're giving up, for lack of a better term, to have Cochran, because $325,000, you can employ some people that are sitting here every day. You do have to manage it. So I'll leave it at that. That's all I have.
And as we spoke, that will necessitate part of the upcoming strategic plan, because I agree, you don't want to just forget about it. You want to look at the pros and cons. I will say we hired, with a staff of engineer, we were still outsourcing some engineer work, and that is little to nothing now. We have one other engineer company, 2, that we had to, but they were required by grants that Cochran couldn't do the work. So that's another piece. But so I totally agree. It's good to keep an eye on pros and cons as you move forward from year to year, and that will be a topic with our research and recommendation from staff when you guys go through your strategic planning coming up, which with that, hopefully that'll be June this year.
I would just make one comment. I agree we need to continue to look at it. If we wanted to make a change now, it would be pretty easy. But if we had a bunch of employees and wanted to make a change, it'd be more difficult. Sure. So we can make the change either way. One of them is going to be a lot less painful. So I just bring that out. I'm not saying which way we go, other than we continue with this, but that's one of the thoughts. And the only other comment is the correction in the ordinance.
I fixed it.
Correction.
The 21 to 22, I
Yeah.
fixed that, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure that.
Yep.
On page 76, there was an error under section 1 that should read fiscal year 2022, 325. So that's, Tara has corrected that.
Okay. Are there any other additional questions or comments? If not, is there a motion to approve the first reading with the amendments made, or the modifications made?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Rucker, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? First reading passes. Second reading by title only of ordinance number 2186, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing a not-to-exceed amount of $325,000 for FY 2022 under the existing contract with LOR Engineering, LLC, DBA, Cochran Engineering Professional Service Agreement. Are there any additional questions? With none, is there a motion to approve?
But-
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I had a couple of quick questions.
Okay.
This is body cameras we're on, right?
Excuse me?
Oh, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. My
No, we're
apologies.
still on Cochran.
Okay, we're still
We're on
Cochran.
second
My
reading of
mistake.
Cochran.
Okay,
Well, I'm
sorry.
glad it happened to somebody else
I'm going
besides me
too fast,
tonight.
wanting to get to the game, my mistake.
We'll get there. We'll be there shortly. Okay. All right. Are there any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve second reading?
So move.
Alderman Morose, do I have a second? Alderman Becker. Roll call, please.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Alderman Becker.
Yes.
Alderman Morose.
Yes.
All right, second reading does pass. Our next item is requesting a first and second reading of Bill Number 2187, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to sign an agreement with Axon Enterprise, Inc. for the purchase and supportive service of body cams, BWC, necessary equipment and software license through Sourcewell contract number 010720-AXN, a cooperative purchasing agreement in the amount not to exceed $156,851 covering a 5-year period. Chief, your presentation.
Mayor, members of the board, this is a request to purchase 25 Axon body-worn cameras and the necessary equipment and software required to operate them. Police Department conducted a test and evaluation trial of the units and were impressed with the clarity in video and audio that the units provided, as well as the ease of use of units. Axon's Evidence.com software simplifies the evidence collection and dissemination process. Their customer service has been outstanding throughout the test and evaluation period. Also included in the project is the cloud storage, which was highly recommended by our IT department. Axon provides both body-worn camera and in-car video solutions for a large number of agencies across the country. This 5-year bid also, or 5-year agreement also includes equipment refresh in years number 3 and 5. So we'll get new equipment initially as we start, and then also in years 3 and 5. Police Department recommends approval.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Alderman Ross.
Just a couple, and Todd, you alluded to one of them I had. So does that mean all new cameras every 2 years in years 1, 3, and 5?
Yes.
All new cameras, okay. And then, there's 25 of them here.
Correct.
Is there more than patrol that's going to wear these regular?
There's one for each officer that we're budgeted for, or allowed. So
Patrol officer?
patrol detectives, when they go out,
Okay.
myself and the 2 lieutenants when we're working the road
Okay.
as well.
That's all I had, thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comment? Alderman Becker.
So the age-old question, do we really need one for every officer?
Yes, because we never know when we're going to be using them. Anytime I'm in uniform or the detectives go out in the field, they'll be using them as well for interviews and.
Yeah, but not everyone is on duty at the same time, correct?
Knock on wood.
Pardon me?
Sorry.
No.
I said knock on wood. You can't foresee events where we would have the entire force on call or on
Plus,
duty.
it would also allow
It's
us.
the same as the taser
if-
debate.
If we have one go
for every
down,
person.
we can always reassign it to another officer if need be.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If there are none, is there a motion to approve first reading?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross and Alderman Osteen is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? First reading passes. Second reading by title only of ordinance number 2187, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to sign an agreement with AXON Enterprise, Inc. for the purchase and supportive services for body cameras, BWC, necessary equipment and software license through the Sourcewell contract number 010720-AXN, a cooperative purchasing agreement in an amount not to exceed $156,851, covering a 5-year period. Are there any additional questions? And for those of you who haven't noticed this, that if you look a little bit farther down in this ordinance, you will see that the first year is $57,043, and the subsequent years are in the amount of $24,952, just as a point of reference covering the 5-year period. All right? Are there any questions or comments? Yes.
I do have one
Alderman.
comment.
Yes.
Tyler, this is you. I didn't mean to cut you short earlier. Look at the events that happened last week in Kentucky and in southern Missouri. We've been fortunate we've not had events such as that, but we came awful close to where it would be a situation where we would have to have the entire police force out there. And of course, you'd want to have them all have all the tools necessary they would need in an emergency situation, which would include body cams.
Fair enough.
So I just use that as a benchmark of, we always have the debate, like, once again, with the tasers, we always say, do we need one for every officer? Well, look at those circumstances and surrounding areas from us, where we've been fortunate enough, we've not needed that, but it could happen.
Also to mention, they'll need charging time in between shifts as well, so it's not like I could just take it off and hand it to the next officer. So we have to charge them for the 12 hours in between.
Yeah.
Any other questions or
That's all.
comments? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve second reading? Alderman Osteen, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Ross, roll call, please.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Sorry, I lost my list. Alderman Becker.
Yes.
Alderman Morose.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
All right, second reading does pass. Our next item requests both a first and second reading of Bill Number 2188, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending ordinance number 20.83, adopting the 2021 annual budget transfers of funds for necessary expenses. City Administrator.
Yes, Mayor, members of the board. I am sure you've been aware, I've never done this many budget adjustments in a whole year since I've been here. But due to our new ordinances and obviously state recommendations or state statutes, this is kind of the final, hopefully the final budget amendment. For the most part, I've amended more revenue dollars than expense dollars, and I did have on page that is, 93, that kind of separates each individual line item. Our budget estimates that staff did are pretty much on target. I'm not expecting the year end to be way off. We'll know that in a couple months when I reassess the beginning dollars for everybody's budget for 2022. So if you have any specific questions on the line items, I'll be happy to answer them. It's just cleaning up based on our ordinance and some expenses. I will say on the Grand Glaze and Lacey Fine Fund, although those revenue items didn't meet a state statute requirement to amend or even our ordinance statute requirement to amend, I did amend them because they are directly affected by the expense line that we did need to amend because of the state statute that a fund cannot be over. So that was kind of why both of those are there to mirror. So on that, I'll entertain any questions that you have on specific line items.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions or comments?
Net gain,
Excuse me?
just 77,000 net gain.
In this case, yes.
All right, if there is none, is there a motion to approve first reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Rucker, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Ross, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? First reading passes. Second reading by title only of ordinance number 2188, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending ordinance number 20.83, adopting the 2021 annual budget, transfer of funds for necessary expenses. Any additional questions? With none, is there a motion to approve second reading?
So move.
Alderman Morose, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Ross. Roll call, please.
Alderman Osteen?
Yes.
Alderman Becker?
Yes.
Alderman Morose?
Yes.
Alderman Rucker?
Yes.
Alderman Ross?
Yes.
All right, the second reading does pass. We move on to our next item, which requests a motion to approve the purchase of sewer inventory replacement items for 2022 from municipal equipment in an amount not to exceed $731,226.02 plus shipping costs. That's exact.
Thank you, Mayor and the board. This purchase from Municipal Pump includes 2 rosters of pumps combined together. The first roster were those identified by the sewer staff for immediate replacement, which we talked about earlier in the budget workshop. That totaled 146 pumps, and then 61 pumps for 2022 for annual inventory. We're just making it under some pretty significant cost increase. We're just squeaking in before somewhere around a 14% increase. We just made it in.
How large of a percent increase?
14.
Another 14% increase.
So I heartily recommend going with this purchase.
All right, thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments? With none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second? Alderman Rucker, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Our next item, request a motion to approve bad debt write-off for Lacey Fine and Grand Glaze Airport in the amount of $425. Water and sewer in the amount of $1,207.39, and ambulance in the amount of $185,361.13. City Treasurer.
Mayor and Board of Aldermen. Always forget this. This is an annual request you're probably used to, full disclosure, so that you understand all of the ins and outs of the city's financials. Obviously, on a percentage basis, your utilities are so very minimal. We did kind of clean up. Actually, what you're looking at for airports is probably 2 to 2.5 years. So we went back and tried to clean up and make sure we had all of that up to date. The ambulance is always the big one, and it is up. The total write-offs for the year are up. But the good news is our revenue also is up, just like sales tax. We've had more trips. We've had more revenue coming in. The collections are down. And I am currently looking into making a recommendation that we consider another collection company. I'm doing some research right now on that, and I may be back with you shortly on that. If you look at page 104 with all that, I just want you to know that I review throughout the year each and every one of these accounts. I review them for what the billing company, every phone call they've made, every process to make sure that they have done everything I feel like they should be doing. I look at it to see if there's any clues about operational issues. Then I will visit with Todd on that. If I see anything that looks untaken, and just overall trends, how are we doing on Medicare, Medicaid, and things like that. I do that throughout the year, and but other than that, I request approval for this so that we can clean up everything for year end.
All right, thank you very much. Questions or comments? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Rucker, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Morose, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Our next item, request a motion to approve the disposal of specific items deemed as surplus property. Assistant City Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. We did one of these a few months ago, and at that time I promised you that I was going to have one more before the end of the year. Your new Public Works Operations Manager has went through every closet, every storage unit, every corner of the Public Works building in an effort to kind of turn the page and move on, and he has provided me with this list. We don't really have anything from any other departments. We did all that earlier in the year. Obviously, we will have more next year. This is, a lot of this stuff is stuff that has been found in the back of storage units, back of closets. Obviously, we have a large list of items that we're gonna sell. We are gonna attempt to sell some of these stuff. You never know, we might end up having to scrap some of it, but the list is in front of you, and either myself or Kevin can answer any questions if you need us to on any items. Recommend approval.
All right, thank you. Questions or comments? Yes, Alderman Osteen.
Why do we have several hundred padlocks?
Why do we have what?
Why do we have several hundred padlocks with keys?
Well, I was around when that happened.
Yeah.
City administrator was, assistant city administrator.
There was a rekeying project that went on. I believe the reason for the rekeying was that there were a number of employees and even citizens with the key.
We had a rash of vandalism and sabotage, and that was back in about 2014, 2015, from our 1,200 lift stations, and come to find out the crew at the time had one key for everyone, and there was 100 keys everywhere. And we had a lot of employees leave, so absolutely a lot was rekeyed back then. That was a long time ago.
Just curious.
It's an interesting story.
So if we try to sell these, do we just have the one key?
Hundreds of keys.
A lot of them are all the same.
All right, all right. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. Are there any questions from anyone else? If there are none, is there a motion to approve? Alderman Osteen, do I have a second? Alderman Becker, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Our final item on tonight's agenda, request a motion to approve the donation of a jetter trailer currently deemed as city surplus to the city of Lynn Creek. Assistant City Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the board. You may remember that in October of 2020, I had come to the board and asked to replace this piece of equipment, and we bought ourselves a nice new jetter mounted truck, which has gotten a lot of use. It is certainly a piece of equipment that is much more suited for the size of our city and our needs. The old jetter, I was prepared earlier in the year to just add it to the list that was just approved, but we were contacted by the city of Lynn Creek. They have an interest in the piece of equipment. I have made it clear to them that this piece of equipment is in very poor shape, but they would still like to have it donated to them. Anytime we get to anything like this, it has to come to the board for approval, so I recommend approval, and any questions you may have, I'm here to answer.
All right, thank you.
Can I add one more comment?
Yes.
I apologize. I know Mike is in charge of surplus, but I want the board to understand, although it is your opinion or recommendation to donate this, but I want you to understand that I'm a firm believer that as a city, our stewardship is to our assets from the time we buy them to the time we get rid of them. And if this had any other market value, I do believe it would be required of us to go through the process of bidding. But the ordinance does say that the board may donate, but because of the fact that it is an item with minimal scrap value and there isn't a readily open public market for it, I do believe it fits within that. But I think it's nice that we have donated in the 20 years I've been here. One other time the board donated some police equipment to a neighboring fire department and a police department, and that also had very specialized market use, but it is not in the normal process because we have gotten requests for donations before, but our stewardship does require us to make sure by the time we purchase them to the time we trash that we take the best appropriate method for the city. So I just want to throw that in to help you understand that this is not common, but it does fit some parameters that it does make sense, so.
Does City of Lynn Creek have a similar type of unit right now? Or is this?
As far as I know, they have no unit. They have subcontracted some cleaning, but they have no unit at all.
Okay, all right. So they're willing to take this and do whatever it takes to bring it up to making it a usable unit again?
Yes, sir. It's a project, and they know that.
Okay.
And they know what they're getting into.
Okay. All right, any other questions or comments? If there are none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Morose, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We move now to communications, starting with members of the board. Alderman Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of quick things. One, I want to personally recognize the Board of Zoning Adjustment. They've been very busy this year, and I got an opportunity to watch the Facebook recording from yesterday, and their patience and professionality during a very unique hearing I found applaudable. Thank you all for all you do.
Yeah.
Okay? And that goes with every other people that help out with our city too. But it's a rarely used up until last year or so board that provides value. And I never thought you'd see a hearing like that, but y'all did a great job. So thank you. And on top of that, just Merry Christmas and thank you to all the city employees. Hope y'all have a great holiday season. Looks like the holidays are going to fall, so most people can have almost some extended time the way our vacation policy and holidays fall. So please enjoy. Have a wonderful season. Thanks for everything you do. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Alderman Morose.
Well, of course, first of all, prayers, as we all know, to go all out with the horrible, horrible incident that happened in Kentucky, the victims and everything, and we were just fortunate we did not get affected. And secondly, I want to again thank all of our city employees for a great year. It's been a true pleasure to be involved with every one of you, and with all your help and your presentations and your input. Happy holidays to each and every one of you, and safe and travels, and just hope that we're going to have a very good, prosperous, happy next year. Thank you.
You can count on that. Alderman Osteen.
I'm just going to bandwagon on the holiday wishes, hoping that everyone has a holiday filled with much joy and much love, much laughter, good food, and good wine.
Amen.
Happy holidays.
There you go.
Alderman Becker.
Just Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes, I have a couple items. First of all, for those that recall from the last meeting, when I told you what we were going to be doing, my grandson's comments about the parks. And at 4 years old, I don't know where he's learned that, but thumbs up is all he gave me after we went through it. And he was a little unhappy where Big Mickey Mouse wasn't over on the other side of the lake, or he didn't see the big Mickey Mouse. I didn't know anyway, but he was pleased other than that, and it was a good job down there. Second of all, for all of those, I don't know how much the board is aware, but a lot of staff has worked a lot of, do a lot of research and stuff in reference to the YMCA wanting to use some property of ours over by the airport. And unfortunately, it's not going to occur because of FAA stuff. And I know Gina can get into it much deeper than I can, but I just want to say thanks for all the work, because I know there's a lot of different people that had to do some research and check into it and what went where. And I'm going to be meeting with Gina actually after the meeting tonight for another place for us to do disc golf, and we'll see if that comes about. But we're just still trying to do things that our citizens out there enjoy and can do. The other comment is, looked like we had a lot of seminars. Ron, was your seminars that your people took and what Kevin's people took, were they the same?
It was the same location. Some of us went to different classes, but most all of them were OSHA related, safety related.
Okay.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of seminars and stuff that were there, which is great. Good for that. The other comment, and I don't know, Kevin, if you can respond to this, but on Cochran's report, the project is still on hold for the Tantera safety improvements for the Tantera site. Can Mike or Kevin respond to it? And I've got a note here that it's on hold.
They may be moving the station.
We canceled those upgrades. That building that you're talking about is a sewer chemical feed building. And if we have our way, we're gonna get out of the sewer chemical business somewhere around the middle of next year. So we decided if we're not gonna use that building, and we're just going to essentially abandon the use of the chemical feed system, then there was no need to improve the building
Okay.
at all.
All right.
And as it stands right now, we've already discontinued use of chemical injection at that particular site already, so.
The other comment was on the major lift station improvements. Have we gotten the parts in? Are we close on getting parts in so that project can move forward?
Yeah, honestly, we are not. We are not. The issues are coming up daily, roadblocks and whatnot. So at this point, I can't give you an estimate. I don't even know. There's a lot of printed circuits and, you know, you've heard all that before. Right now, I don't have a delivery date at this time. I do not.
Okay. Was just wondering with that. Other than that, safe travel for everybody. Happy holidays and have a prosperous new year. And we'll see you all next year.
All right, City Administrator.
Well, same thing. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. This is our last meeting of the year. We'll see you next year. You'll be getting some emails from me. I'm going to try to be ahead of the game on planning items between January and June. I know that sounds crazy, but I do apologize in advance. Because of the holidays, there'll be many staff members probably gone between here and now in the next 2 weeks, so don't be surprised if it looks a little skeleton crew. Doors will get open and some people will be working, but a lot of people do save their vacation time and some personal time to spend over the holidays. So don't be surprised if many people are gone. Other than that, I want to say thank you to Michael. I know that this was a tease of our upgrades in the boardroom. So after the first of the year, should we necessitate some items, we'll see this in full working condition. I don't want to steal his thunder, but I know he had other help from other departments, but Michael's taken the lead on that, and I appreciate that.
All right, thank you. City Attorney.
Yes, Mayor, one thing. By now, normally, in our cycle of business, you would have seen an ordinance to reset or redistrict the ward boundaries. That's something we do every 10 years based on the decennial census. We do not yet have access to what they call block-level data from the census. And I've talked to Mr. Jenkins, the county clerk in Miller County, and Mr. Todd, the county clerk in Camden County. They don't have access to that data either. The election in April will be run on existing ward boundaries unless one of the circuit judges in Camden changes my mind on that, which I doubt they will, but you know, we'll do whatever the judge says. But basically, we don't have any data to adjust the boundaries. I did discuss this briefly with the mayor and city administrator and with Carrie Patterson, our planner. Frankly, all of us are pretty much on the same page. We don't think the city's grown in such a disproportional way that there's a real imbalance in our districts. You will see an ordinance to reset the district boundaries as soon as we get the data to actually do the job correctly. But right now, we just can't get the data yet. So that's just an update for where you are in terms of the municipal election, which will be held next April. Other than that, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and I'll see you in 2022.
All right, thank you. City Clerk.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Chief.
Ditto the same. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We have our two recruits are graduating tomorrow at 9 o'clock. They called me yesterday. They passed their post test.
Yay.
Both happy as can be. So we'll be doing that, and they'll get sworn in and start on Monday. Shop with the Cop, we're doing it next Tuesday at Walmart. We got 13 kiddos. We're taking shopping for Christmas presents. So, and then a shout out to Michael. He was really helpful and integral part of the whole IT portion of the body cams, doing all that research and stuff, and couldn't have pulled it off without him. And he got to spend time with one of our quality vendors, so took one for the team.
All right, thanks, Chief. Parks?
Happy holidays, thank you very much, and have a great year, everybody.
HR?
Yes, Mayor, members of the board, I just thought I'd give you an update on our hiring. We have unfortunately just have our reaching levels of the probably emergency staff for our sewer department. We've had 2 recent resignations. We'll let you know that Kevin, Mike, and I met with the city administrator, and we are working and implementing plans, temporary and permanent, to adjust that and hopefully address that here in the near future. As well as we're still struggling with 911, but Todd and Mike, Lieutenant Day and I, and as well as Lexi Morley are working on that and putting some things in place, and hopefully we'll be bringing some things to you by the second meeting in January. Just want to give you a heads up, and let you know that in case you hear about that. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, be safe.
Thank you. City Treasurer.
Thank you all for what you do and for the challenges we've all been through this year, and look forward to Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you.
Assistant City Administrator.
Thank you, sir. Just a couple of updates since Cochran is not here. I'm very happy to announce that I issued a letter of substantial completion for Mace Road on Wednesday. That project, very, very happy to announce that that project is going to come in approximately $160,000 under the original approved price.
Yay.
Of 914, it was just over 914,000 that was approved by the board. Now, obviously, some of that is because we did not do some of the work near the Parkway, but a lot of that is also due to us finding solutions to going around utilities and doing whatever we could to try and save money along that project. So that amounts to about an 18% lowering of the price, so that's pretty nice. That's pretty good, and that is the culmination of the Mace Road project, which we've all been dealing with for several years now. So now we'll move on to industrial next year, so the next big project. And then just wanted to also update you on the apron project out at the airport. We are nearing the halfway point on that, which is kind of what Gina and I had hoped for, is that that's kind of what we forecasted for, was to have that half done this year, and then the other half completed hopefully before Labor Day next year. So that project is going along very nicely as well, and hopefully we will get that completed before Labor Day so that we can have that apron fully open by then. Other than that,
Memorial Day.
I always get them
The other
confused.
Labor Day.
I'm so sorry.
Another Labor Day.
Good catch. Sorry about that. Other than that, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
All right, thanks. Public Works Operations Manager.
Nothing for the board, sir. Merry Christmas to all.
All right. Building Official.
Ditto. Merry Christmas to everybody. Thank you.
Airport.
Oh, I got big news at the airport today.
Good.
Ladies and gentlemen. I need to thank Rob Long and John Patterson for coming. Sorry.
You shut it off. Hold on, time out. He just learned how to use it.
My apologies. My apologies.
My news wasn't that big.
Well, I tell you what, you certainly can't beat the ringtone, that's for sure. Let's start all over again.
I needed to give a shout out to the street department. They came out and helped me. I've had some projects in line. I've been wanting to replace our light bulbs and the beacons at both airports with LED light bulbs, and they came out and helped them. We got Grand Glaze finished the other day, so I'll get you some numbers in an email on what I'm hoping to save as far as dollars go, but these particular bulbs we put in have a 5-year warranty, and with the lifespan of how long they run each night, they're supposed to last between 14 and 16 years. So thanks to them for helping me get those changed, and Lacey Fine will be next on the agenda.
Great.
So, and yes, they are halfway done with the apron project, and so if we're blessed with nice weather in the spring, we'll have that done before Memorial Weekend. So
Great.
thank you, and happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you. IT.
Happy holidays to everyone in your family. Thank you.
All right, our business for this evening is complete, and we are adjourned. Merry Christmas and have a safe and happy holiday.
Safe out there.